Hello and welcome to Mickeyology, where we take Disney a little too seriously. I'm Austin Rathall, and today we're examining one of Disney's oddest properties, the story of Mr. Toad. Now, it's not the story that's odd. This is a delightful story from a delightful book called The Wind in the Willows. The book also seems tailor-made for Disney animation. It's an episodic story about the adventures of animals, just like Bambi or The Jungle Book or The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Yet Walt Disney thought the book was corny and once said the story wasn't well suited for cartoon material, and he abandoned plans to adapt it into a feature film. However, Disney then chose to make this corny, unsuitable story into half a movie, pairing it with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow to form the two-part feature, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Then Disney turned that half movie into its own theme park ride. So Disney took a story that Walt Disney didn't want to adapt and began adapting it, but then stopped adapting it, but then they adapted it again twice. Talk about a wild ride. So how faithful is Disney's version of Mr. Toad to the original? Well, the answer to that question is a bit wild too, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's compare Disney's version of Mr. Toad's story with the original. By making their film about the adventures of Mr. Toad, Disney was already departing from The Wind in the Willows because Mr. Toad isn't that book's main character. Rat and Mole are the main protagonists of the book, with Toad popping in and out of the story several times. Toad is the most theatrical of all the book's characters though, so Disney probably gave him the lead role for that reason, and made Rat and Mole supporting characters. Not only did Disney push Rat and Mole to the sidelines, but they added new characters of their own. Both Cyril the horse and Winky the bartender are Disney creations. Disney also changed Badger to Mac Badger. The biggest difference between the book and movie though is the plot. In the book, Mr. Toad's story is a fable about the dangers of obsession and thrill-seeking. We're introduced to Toad when his friends, Rat and Mole, visit him and find out he's got a new gypsy cart in which he plans to travel the countryside. Toad takes them for a ride when a motor car speeds by and runs them off the road. On seeing the motor car, Toad becomes obsessed and he starts buying cars of his own as soon as he gets home. Toad continues pouring his fortune into cars, which he often wrecks, until Rat, Mole, and Badger stage an intervention. They stay at Toad Hall and keep watch over Toad to force him to stop his shameful behavior. But one day, Toad sneaks out of his house and happens upon a parked car, which he just can't help but touch, then start, then steal. He's immediately caught, put on trial, and sentenced to 20 years in prison. In prison, Toad meets the jailer's young daughter, who takes pity on him and helps him escape by dressing him as a washerwoman and helping him slip away in disguise. Toad then dupes a train conductor and a barge driver into helping him evade the police and make his way back home. Oh, and along the way he steals and sells a horse and performs another carjacking. Just before he reaches Toad Hall, the police chase Toad into the river, but luckily Rat is passing by and rescues him. Rat informs Toad that in his absence a group of weasels has begun squatting in Toad Hall. Toad is furious and wants to reclaim his home, so Toad, Rat, Mole, and Badger arm themselves and sneak into Toad Hall through a secret passage, taking the weasels by surprise. They quickly defeat the weasels and Toad is overjoyed. He plans to host a banquet where he will sing and give speeches to his guests about how brave and clever he is, but his friends persuade him to refrain from boasting. Toad reluctantly agrees, hosting his banquet humbly and without fanfare. It seems he just might reform after all. It's a clean, neat morality tale, but Disney changed it to make Toad more sympathetic. Toad still gets motor mania in their version, but he doesn't steal a car. Instead, he trades for one, giving a bartender named Winky the deed to Toad Hall in exchange for the car parked outside his tavern. Winky frames Toad for Grand Theft Auto, so the authorities still throw Toad in jail, but here they do so on false charges. Disney has Cyril the horse break Toad out of jail rather than the jailer's daughter, and they turn the fight for Toad Hall into a struggle to clear Toad's name. Disney's Toad is more a victim. Rat even apologizes to Toad for misjudging him. Toad gets his house back and his friends think he's reformed, only to learn that he's got a new obsession: airplanes. Did Disney let their Toad off too easily? Did they undermine the original story's message? Maybe, but that's not the craziest thing about how Disney handled this story. Remember, Disney adapted Mr. Toad's story again, and they changed it again. Near the heart of Disneyland stands Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. On this ride, you assume the role of Mr. Toad himself, driving like a maniac over the English countryside. Unlike the movie, though, Mr. Toad doesn't get away with his crimes, or lose Toad Hall to the weasels. In fact, he doesn't survive the night. The ride ends as you, Mr. Toad, crash your car, after which you enter the fires of hell, where you're condemned by a horned judge and tormented by little red devils with pitchforks. If you ever rode this and wondered whether the whole going to hell thing comes from the movie or even the book, the answer is no. That part is 100% Disney. Some people online have speculated that this scene was meant as an homage to early dark rides, which sometimes featured ghosts or even depictions of hell, but ride designer Bill Martin said the hell scene was just a gag, one approved by Walt Disney himself. So to recap, Disney took a story that warns about the dangers of thrill-seeking and turned it into two different stories, one that ultimately laughs off those warnings, and the other that tells you that not only is thrill-seeking dangerous, but it could earn you an eternity in hell. So not only are Disney's adaptations of Mr. Toad's story different from the original, they're radically different from each other. Why did Disney handle this story this way? Well, books, films, and theme park rides are all different mediums, and each has different advantages, so maybe Disney just changed the story to fit the needs of each medium. Maybe they wanted to subvert their audience's expectations and give them something new with each new version of the story. Or maybe they were just making things up as they went along without much rhyme or reason, and here we are. Now, while there are many differences between The Wind in the Willows and Disney's Mr. Toad, some things are the same. All three versions of the story feature many of the same characters: Mr. Toad, his friends Rat, Mole, and Badger, his enemies the Weasels, and various officers of the court who sentenced Toad to prison. While the plot of the book is different from the film, the basic story is still the same. In both versions, Mr. Toad is a flighty gentleman who becomes obsessed with cars. His friends try to save him from his bad behavior, but he disregards them, gets in trouble for stealing a car, and goes to prison. He escapes and makes it back home, only to find out his house is occupied by a gang of weasels. However, his friends help him fight off the weasels and retake his home. The one aspect of the story that Disney adapted most faithfully is Toad's personality. Disney captured Toad's character perfectly, portraying him exactly as Kenneth Grahame does in the book: arrogant, reckless, and flitting from one obsession to the next. Even if Disney's Mr. Toad doesn't have to take as much responsibility for his actions, his character is pretty much the same. Also, in every version, we the audience get the pleasure of seeing a Toad drive like a madman through the countryside, and what's not to love about that? You know, besides a possible trip to hell. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's this. If you haven't read The Wind in the Willows yet, please do so. It's a beautiful, charming book of fables that takes you away from the stresses of modern life and lets you escape into a simpler world where friendly animals live simple lives close to nature. The world of the book is very cozy, like the Missouri of Tom Sawyer or Hobbiton from Lord of the Rings. It's a place where you can still have adventures, but life is kind of slow. The book is a little slow and meandering, but I think that's kind of the point. It shows you the futility of living like a Mr. Toad and encourages you to live like Rat or Mole. Slow down and remember what's actually important. And if you like Disney's adaptations of Mr. Toad's story, I think you'll like the book even more. So there you have it. That is how Disney's version of Mr. Toad compares to the original book. Please let me know in the comments if you've read the story and which version is your favorite and why you think Disney chose to handle the story in so many different ways. Also, let me know which Disney movie you would like me to compare with its source material next, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe before you go. That way our channel can grow and you won't miss another video. As always, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.